headlines.
Singapore became a member of the Asian nation on August 8, 1960.
Singapore has 4 official languages listed in its constitution.
Singapore is parliamentary republic whereby the president of Singapore
increased from 92.5% in year 2000.
The system includes 6 years of primary school, followed by 4 to
Good day, this is Singapore News, where we Angelica Cervantes, your news anchor for today. Join us as we divulge the qualities and attributes of the country, Singapore. Let's begin with Ms. Shirley Ann May Labadia. Please give us some updates, Ms. Shirley.
Thank you, Gila.
Singapore became a member of the Asian nation on August 8, 1967. Singapore is both a country and its capital. The name of its official currency is called the Singapore dollar. 1 Singapore dollar is equivalent to 0.74 US dollar. In Philippine peso, 1 Singapore dollar is equivalent to 37.56 Philippine peso. Shirley Ann Mayderases Labadia reporting.
Back to you, Gila.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley Ann. Now let's proceed to the languages of the country, Singapore. Singapore has 4 official languages listed in its constitution: the Malay, Mandarin, Tamil, and English. The Malay language in Singapore. On top of being an official Singapore's national language, as a reflection of its indigenous culture before the arrival of the British in 1819. The Mandarin language in Singapore. The official Singaporean Chinese language is known as Mandarin or Huayo, similar to China's official Putonghua, based on a Beijing dialect. The Tamil language in Singapore. The Tamil language in Singapore was chosen as the official Indian language, as settlers from the Tamil Nadu region in southern India make up more than half of the local Indian diaspora. English is the main language used in school and at work in Singapore, and has become the city's most commonly spoken language. British English is adopted as the main English standard as a legacy of the country's time as a British colony. Even though English language is not a language of a major ethnic group in Singapore, it was adopted to unify the multicultural community speaking their own mother tongues. It was also a practical option to aid the country's development and growth on an international level, since English is the global language used for administration, business, science, and technology. Now let's proceed to Ms. J. Audrey Katakutan for the country's government.
Thank you, Mitchila. So the current population of Singapore is 5,907,535 as September 30, 2021, based on Worldometer elaboration of the latest United Nations data. Other data we receive, it is about 5.8 million, of which 62% are citizens and 38% are permanent residents or foreign workers and students. The type of government. Singapore is parliamentary republic whereby the president of Singapore is the head of state and the prime minister of Singapore is the head of government and of a multi-party system. Name of the agency who took care of their education. Education in Singapore is managed by the Ministry of Education or MOE. It controls the development and administration of state schools receiving taxpayers' funding, but also has an advisory and supervisory role in respect of private schools. Number of primary schools, both private and public. In 2019, there were 179 active primary schools in Singapore. As of now, there were 180. There were more than 40 primary schools in private and more than 100 primary schools in public. Number of educational higher institutions, state colleges, and universities. There are 34 universities in Singapore, of which 6 are national. So the 6 are the autonomous or national university, while there were 28 universities in Singapore, private and international institutions. And that will be all of the information in Singapore regarding their population, number of educational institutions, and type of government. This is Chayori Katakutan reporting Singapore News. Back to you, Gila.
Next will be Ms. Christine Tuason for the country's annual budget and literacy.
Thank you, Jella. So the annual education budget in Singapore is 12.8 billion. But for year 2020 budget, The revised total expenditure of the Ministry of Education or MOE is 12.63 billion. Of the total expenditure, 12.5 billion or 95.4% is for operating expenditure and 582 million or 4.6% is for development expenditure. And the percentage of education budget to their national budget is 28.84%. General government expenditure on education, including the current capital and transfers, is expressed as a percentage of total general government expenditure on all sectors, including the health, education, social services, and etc. It includes expenditure funded by transfers from international sources to government. And now I'll talk about the overall literacy rate in Singapore, starting with the adults. Adult literacy rate of Singapore increased from 92.5% in year 2000 to 97.3% in year 2018, growing at an average annual rate of 0.57%, and the overall literacy rate of male adults. In year 2020, the literacy rate for males in Singapore was at 98.5%. The literacy rate in Singapore has increased since over the years, indicating an increase in education levels in the population. And lastly is the overall literacy rate for female adults. In year 2020, the literacy rate for females in Singapore was 95.8%, while the female literacy rate in Singapore has shown a steady increase over the last 10 years. It is still lower than the male literacy rate, which stands at 98.5% as of 2020. This is Christine Tuason reporting. Back to you, Jella.
To give us some updates regarding the country's school format or structure and the universities of the country Singapore, let's have Ms. Sandy Mandaras.
Thank you, Ms. Jella. In Singapore, the system includes 6 years of primary school, followed by 4 to 6 years of secondary school and 1 to 3 years of post-secondary school. The curriculum for primary schools is common for all the students in years 1 to 4. Singapore secondary school curriculum is recognized worldwide for its ability to develop students with critical thinking and intellectual skills. Foreign students are accepted at secondary schools subject to availability for vacancies. A single academic year comprises of 40 weeks of teaching, 10 weeks of each term, and after each term there will be holidays before the term commences. In 2019, the ratio of students to teachers was 14.8 students per teacher. The student-to-teacher ratio in primary school has been decreasing in Singapore since 2012. In 2019, the ratio of student to teacher was 11.7 students to every teacher. The student-to-teacher ratio in secondary school in Singapore had been decreasing since 2012. The 21st century education system is at the confluence of two important paradigm shifts. First, the focus of education has shifted from traditional knowledge acquisition in a teacher-centered classroom environment to one which focused on the learner, encouraging collaboration and emphasizing awareness of the environment beyond the classroom. Second, there has been a global-driven movement toward the technology which embraces the global information of technologies and which known as ICT, as well as the interactive of digital media. These are the best top 10 universities in Singapore. National University of Singapore, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore Management University, SIM University, Singapore University of Technology and Design, Miller International College, Cornell Nanyang Institute of Hospitality Management, European Business School, Pioneer Junior College, Jewelry Design and Management School. And this is Sandy Gleshamdara, Singapore News.
Now, why does Singapore has building height restrictions? The priority is to keep the airspace clear for plane to operate at Changi Airport. As such, Singapore has had a building height limit of 280 meters for years.
So, why Singapore's education system is the world's best, or what makes Singapore's education system so successful? Well, Singapore produces the world's brightest people. League tables consistently place Singapore in the top ranks. higher than many advanced economies like Canada, Switzerland, or even Finland on some measures. And what makes their education system so successful is that first, because of their socio-economic drivers. Next is Singapore's active policy making. Next is targeted and precise curriculum, rigorous teaching regime in classrooms, and outstanding cadre of teachers.
Is Singapore's education system entirely flawless? No, it has weaknesses too. First, there are concerns on stress and overworking because Singapore's education system breeds stress or is too exam-focused, for students struggling on taking time exams. Second, there are concerns on inequality because inequality primarily stems from wealthier families being able to provide supplementary education via private tuition to their children both before entering school and during school years themselves. Third, there are concerns on rote memorization because they are focused on rote learning in which students merely on memorizing what they have learned based on repetition. So these three weaknesses couldn't make Singapore's education system flawless. Even though it is the world's best education system, there are some factors that could make it imperfect.
What is Singapore's secret formula for such stellar educational outcomes, you may ask? All students enrolled in a government-run or a government-aided school for a modest fee. And a system of streaming involving regular examinations sorts students into different academic programs based on their academic strengths. Here, school pupils will sit the PSLE exams in order to be examined on the acquisition of the essential numerical, literacy, and scientific skills, the first milestone that a student in Singapore's education pathway conquers. Based on the results of the PSLE, the students will then sorted into three streams. Senior pupils will then sit their O-level exam. The results of this determine which colleges graduating students qualify to enter. Options for further specializations rest upon the individual decisions of the student, depending on their career aspirations and academic achievements.
How can 21st century skills prepare students to enter the workplace and higher education? 21st century skills enable students to develop core competencies such as collaboration, critical thinking, digital literacy, communication, life and career skills, and problem solving that advocates teachers need to teach to help students thrive in today's world.
Undeniably, Singapore is really a progressive country. Once again, this is Maria Jella Cervantes, brought to you by Singapore News. Have a great day ahead, everyone.